Hello everyone, this is part 39 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It was a regular day in Konoha, at least on the outside it was. In one certain home of the Hitaki household, things were a bit busy. Kakashi, after a good long rest and after his welcome home moment with his girlfriend, he felt a lot more refreshed. Naruto had been bouncing all morning and he had helped to set up the backyard. It was a lot easier now that Naruto had the shadow clones, as the army of little ninjas went to work setting up blankets and those throwaway plates. Kakashi went out to get snack food and some drinks at a local store he had gone for years. Kakashi thought about how stressful things had been lately, with Itachi attacking the village, him in a coma, Naruto out to get Tsunade and the trouble they ran into, and now all the trouble with the mission they had just gotten through. Maybe this little party was just the way to get all the stress out and enjoy themselves. It had been some time since everyone had been together in a nice setting too, he figured. An hour later everything was set up in the backyard. It wasn't the biggest yard, but it could hold everyone. In the center was an old cherry blossom tree that had been there as long as Kakashi knew. Naruto had once asked if they could put a tree fort up there. He had to explain that the tree wasn't shaped properly or could hold the weight. Kakashi was sitting on the small open deck reading one of his favorite books as Naruto was nearly jumping out of his shoes. He had to mentally chuckle at how, when it was something that excited him, he was like a child waiting to open his presents. There was a knock at the door, and off in a flash he ran to the front door as Kakashi shook his head in amusement, turning the page in his book. Naruto ran to the front door and opened it to see Sakura there, and Sasuke was with her. "Hey guys, glad that you showed up. Actually, I'm surprised you're here, Sasuke. Didn't think parties were your thing." Sasuke shrugged, figured it was only polite. Actually, he had been thinking about just staying away. He wasn't feeling up to being social, but that's what he always did, and things never seemed really get better. So he had decided to at least try something different. Besides, if he didn't like it, then he could just leave. While walking here, he had met up with Sakura as they decided to walk together to his home. "Naruto, that's not very nice," she chided him. "Yeah, but kind of accurate," he thought, but thankfully didn't say anything. "Well, come on in, you guys, you're the first to show up." It wasn't that far away as another group started to show up. The next ones to show up were three certain Hyugas. When Naruto opened the door, he saw Hinata in front, being flanked by Neji and Hinata's younger sister. Although he was happy to see all three, there was one person he was happier to see than the others. Before anyone could speak, he had pulled Hinata into a hug, making the girl blush at the sudden contact, but it had been some time before they had seen each other, so she hugged him back. Neji coughed into his hand, although he accepted that Hinata and Naruto were an item. That didn't mean he had to like seeing this kind of thing in person. Hinata pulled back, suddenly aware that they had others watching him. Naruto gave a scowl at Neji. "Ruin the moment, why don't you?" he told him. "I make no apologies," Neji said simply. "Well, come on in then," Naruto said while gently taking Hinata's hand as he led the way. "How have you guys been?" "Busy," Neji replied. "Everyone seems to be working nearly non-stop." Hinata nodded as her own team had been used for a lot more missions lately. "It does seem like we've been working a lot more." She was glad that she got to spend time here with Naruto as she felt the warmth of his hand in her own. "School is going okay," Hanabi spoke up as she was in the academy. "But it gets kind of boring sometimes." "Yeah, I know that feeling," Naruto told her, as he had always found the book learning part of school the most boring. He led him to the backyard as he took Hinata over to a place by the tree on one of the blankets. He was eager to catch up with her and to tell her what happened himself. Plus, he got to spend time with her. They sat down together as he was just enjoying being there with her. She always had this calming influence around her. Hinata was just overjoyed that she finally got to spend time with Naruto. They hadn't seen each other in a while, and she was enjoying just having him by her side. She felt his hand in hers as they sat down as he talked about his mission. She got a bit worried when he got to the part in the forest when they split up and what happened after that. She held his hand a little together, hearing the story. She knew that as ninjas they were always going to face something dangerous, but it was a worry she always had. "You're alright," thought, "right, you and everyone else." she asked, taking another look to see if he was hiding any injuries. I'm fine, he waved it off, although that bone guy was really tough. He didn't want to say it in front of her knowing she might worry, but if Gaara hadn't been there he wasn't sure how he would have fought the guy. All his clones hadn't been doing well, and also the fact that he hadn't figured out how to get close enough to use a Rasengan at the guy. His wind chakra didn't seem to help much as he had mulled things over. He really needed to work on that if he ever came up against someone like that again. I'm glad that you're okay, she said softly. He looked at her and saw that worry that had been on her face. Hey, don't worry, you won't lose me. I'll always come back to you, I promise you that, and you know that I never break a promise. She wasn't sure why, but hearing that made her feel a bit better. She knew that Naruto really did keep his promises and he would do everything he could to keep it. She smiled at him as she decided to lean against his shoulder a bit, just relaxing and enjoying being next to him. Naruto blinked at her before smiling and leaning against her a bit in return. This didn't go unnoticed as Ino and Sakura were watching the entire thing. Why can't I get something like that in my life? Ino sighed. Although she did find the whole scene cute, she kind of wished that she had a boyfriend to do cute things like that with. First you'll need a boyfriend for that, Sakura told her with a smirk. Yeah, well, if Sasuke-kun would just say yes to a date then I'm sure I would, her friend told her. Sakura bit her tongue on the fact that Sasuke most likely didn't like the kind of attention that Ino and a lot of the other girls in the academy who used to always chase after him. She had figured out that Sasuke wanted someone he could respect as a ninja instead. It was talking with Anko that led Sakura to that realization, and although she wanted him to notice her, Sakura had pushed that aside for now to focus on her training. Her lessons with Tsunade were very important, as learning from the best was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But still she would have liked to have a relationship with him. Now that she stopped chasing after him so much, she finally got a chance to take a look at him. There was a lot of pain that he carried with him, and she could tell sometimes he had to be lonely, but he was too used to being alone to let others in. Lately she had seen him open up a little, but how much she wasn't certain. Looking at Sasuke now, he was leaning against a wall watching everything going on. Well, maybe he just needs someone to get him to open up, Sakura thought to herself. Speaking of my teammate, I think I'll try and get him to start enjoying himself. You're not just saying that to be alone with him, are you? Ino asked her straight out. Ino, he's on my team, we get to be alone a lot of the time, Sakura told her as she walked over to Sasuke. You know, you could try to mingle a little, she told him, crossing her arms. These aren't really my thing, he told her, as he never was one to be social. Too much time alone made him unsure of what you were supposed to do. He was never really good with people at any rate. So then why did you come? Sakura asked him. He shuffled a bit as he was a bit uncertain how to answer that to her. She only looked at him and then her expression softened a bit. Well, if you want, I can stick with you at least long enough to make sure you're comfortable at least. If you prefer to be alone, then I can just go back over to Ino, although I'm thinking she'll come over here anyway. Sasuke thought about that. In all honesty, he would prefer to stick with Sakura rather than Ino. The blonde girl would just annoy him with her constantly flirting. Ever since Sakura stopped doing that and had become more of an actual kunoichi that he could respect, he preferred her presence. In fact, lately he had started to see her as someone that he could rely on. That battle with Itachi, she had really shown him that despite any odds she would stand with him. He knew that if she hadn't been there that he wouldn't have lasted as long against his older brother. She had shown a real determination against the odds. He cast a look to her as decided to really look at her this time. Almost like he was looking at her for the first time. She had gotten stronger, in fact she could one day become one of the strongest in the village under Tsunade. But then he started to really look at her. Her pink hair was a unique color, but for some reason it suited her. She now kept her hair a decent length, but it was a good look for her. Actually, he was actually considering that if there was a girl he might see himself with, Sakura was starting to be the one. It was much easier to be around her lately, and she had stopped chasing after him. He would wonder if things were different, then how would his parents have thought of Sakura? His memories of them weren't as sharp as it used to be, but he figured his mother would have liked any girl he brought home to them. She had always been very kind and understanding, while his father had been a much sterner man. In fact, he might not accept anyone that wasn't a member of the clan. But as there weren't any other members left, he would have to look to others if he ever wanted his clan to live on to future generations. He wasn't sure what his father would think, but he would only accept someone that he would deem worthy of the Uchiha name. Thinking on it, he thought that Sakura had the most potential, but there had to be more than just that. He didn't want some cold marriage of convenience, he actually wanted to like whoever he ended up with. He thought of his mother and the warmth she had brought to the family. He wanted someone that was like that. Someone that could make his home not just the place he lived, but a place he felt he wanted to return to. You know, you've been kind of quiet, Sakura told him, and then saw the look he was giving her. It wasn't a look she was used to, almost like he was studying her. She blushed under his gaze as she looked away. What? Nothing, Sasuke said as he felt something and he wasn't sure what. But if he ever wanted to find out, and if he ever thought that there might be something with Sakura, then maybe he should try and see. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it could be something, he wasn't sure which, but maybe it was time to find out. She had stood beside him and she had tried to help him in the past, so maybe he could at least try to open up a little. He had a lot of time to think on things after their battle with Itachi, and he had spent that time deep in thought about a lot of things. So, would you like to meet up with me tomorrow? Sasuke looked away, not sure he could look at her directly. Sakura's eyes widened as she looked at him, as she wasn't sure, but he might be asking her on a date. Remember to play it cool, let them make the first move. Never look too desperate. Those words Anko had told her about guys she remembered, as Sakura had asked the older women about men before. So she took a breath to keep calm as she tried not to sound too excited. Yeah, sure thing, she kept her voice calm although her stomach was doing backflips. She took a look around as she bit her lip. Maybe she could find Anko later and get a bit more advice. As time went on, the others started to show up. When Hiruzen Sarutobi came as he was dropping off Konohamaru, Naruto was eager to welcome them both here. Hey old man, you're finally up. Well, in a manner of speaking, the former Hokage spoke up as he was leaning on a cane. He couldn't walk without the aid of it now, and he couldn't move very fast. In fact, walking around was tough to get around these days out of the hospital. Tsunade told him that he had to keep up physically or else he might end up bedridden for good. It wasn't easy on his old body and he felt his age these days. He was glad he was no longer Hokage and that Tsunade was in power. The days to come, he could tell, were for the younger generations, for them to come into their own. So he was going to enjoy his retirement, and spending more time with his family was one such thing. Of course, Grandpa is too tough to be in the hospital for long, Konohamaru spoke up for his grandfather. The old man chuckled as he roughed the boy's hair. Go and play, I think I see that Hyuga girl you've been hanging out with. Ha! The little boy looked to see the familiar Hanabi not far away as the boy broke out into a smile seeing his friend. Oh hey Hanabi. He ran off as his grandfather watched as both boys went back to their friends. It did his old heart good to see so many youthful faces enjoying themselves. Yo, Pop, you want a seat? Asuma asked his father, pointing him to where the adults were sitting. God yes, he told him honestly that he'll get here was literally a pain to get up to this house. He rested his old bones in one of the free chairs and the relief from his body felt great. You're starting to sound like an old man, sensei, Jiraiya teased him. I am an old man, he shot back in humor to his former student. Looking around the table, he couldn't help but see a few other things. His son was sitting with Kurenai, the lovely genjutsu specialist, and his son seemed very close. In fact, he noticed how his hand went to cover hers and she didn't pull away. In fact, the slight body movement of her going closer told him that his son might not be single for much longer. That was good in his opinion. The boy should find a nice wife and start a family of his own, and he knew Kurenai from his time as Hokage, plus he could see something in the way they looked at each other. It wasn't love, at least not yet, but it could grow there. The professor looked around as Kakashi tried to ignore Guy. That man was every bit his father's son, all the while he was leaning against Anko as the woman poked fun at Guy's challenging Kakashi all the time. Again, he could see the little subtleties between them. He could see that these two were at a much deeper level than the previous couple. He smiled to himself, going for some tea. It was good to be young. Temari looked around the party. She really didn't know many of the people here personally, only Team 7 really. Although he saw that boy she had faced on the final part of the exams playing shogi with his sensei, she believed. She took an interest as she played the game as well. Although the adult was skilled, she could tell that the boy was better. She saw the older man make a mistake as she shook her head. He's going to beat you in 8 moves now, Temari spoke up to him. What? Asuma blinked at her and then looked to the board. Why did you have to say that? Shikamaru groaned. Now he's going to take forever to make a move. Well, you could have ended it sooner, Temari told him, crossing her arms. I didn't want to make him feel bad, he shrugged. Okay, that's it. Asuma stood up and gestured to his seat. Since you two are so keen, how about you two start playing? I don't mind, Shikamaru shrugged again. Fine, besides I owe you one for that fight we had. Temari sat down as they reset the board. Asuma went to lean on the wall as he was about smoke, but remembered that Kakashi didn't like that in his home. He put it away as he watched the two starting up a game. He noticed Kurenai walking over to him as he gave a small smile at that. Recently they had gone out a few times and honestly he wouldn't mind if they kept going out. She was a very beautiful woman, but she was also warm and yet also fierce when she needed to be, a good combination in his mind. Ended things a little soon there, didn't you? Kurenai asked him. He was going to win. Anyway, I need a break. He watched as the game started up but then noticed that Shikamaru stopped and suddenly got into his thinking pose. That was interesting that she had pushed him into that already. He watched the game more closely now. What is he doing? Kurenai asked him. He does this when he really needs to concentrate, Asuma explained to her. I've only managed to get him into this a few times, but she managed to get him to do that already. Temari overheard it and she had to smirk. He may have outdone her before, but now she wasn't going to fall for any of his tricks of misdirection like last time. This time she was going to be patient and keep an eye out for everything of him. As the game went on there was a lot of back and forth. He had gone into his thinking pose a few times, but after some time the game was nearing its end. She had seen a few of his traps this time and didn't step into them. As the game went on she grew more confident in her victory as she was soon taking control of the game. She sat back as in just a few more moves she would win. He made one move and suddenly the game turned. There, I win. What? Her eyes widened as she took a closer look. She couldn't believe it, but she had missed something after all. She couldn't believe that she had lost again to this boy. She looked at him, narrowing her eyes. I want to play again. He was surprised by this, but apparently she was a stubborn one. He thought about saying he wanted to nap, but he knew she would just get troublesome if he did. With a sigh he reset the table as they got a new game starting up. Although he would admit he had never played against someone of her skill before, it was a nice change of pace. Asuma had been the only one that had given him any kind of challenge outside of his father. Playing against this girl was a nice fresh type of game. When you played against the same people you get a feel for how they play and it starts to make things predictable, so with Temari the game had been different than any other player so far. Gaara watched as Temari started playing again. Although it might not be apparent to anyone else, he could see his older sister was having fun. Parties weren't his thing though. He had no idea how to act or behave. Then again, it wasn't like he had been to a party before. Everyone seemed to be having fun. Then he noticed Naruto with that girl again, the Hyuga one that he talked about. Hinata, that was the name. When he looked at them, they had pretty much been together since she joined the group. They seemed very happy together, and again he wondered about it. Naruto was like him, someone that held a demon inside, and yet here he was surrounded by people that enjoyed him and even had someone in his life that cared for him. Lately he had been getting closer to his siblings and it was nice, but looking around he felt that maybe he wanted a bit more. He started walking over to the couple as Naruto was joking about something that made the girl giggle. Hey Gaara, Naruto noticed him walking over to them. You having fun? Gaara looked around. No one was trying to kill him, and although he got a few worried looks and there was some distance, no one was looking at him with total fear or hatred. So given that he could say that things were going better than it could be expected. It's going well, Gaara told them, but looked at the both of them. You told me once that you have people who care for you. How did you do this? How? Naruto came up blank. He was basically just himself. Naruto-kun has always stood up for his friends. Hinata offered, seeing him draw a blank. So she decided to say what she thought of Naruto. He never gives up on himself or his friends. Gaara looked at her for a moment, almost like studying her. You have no fear of him even knowing what's inside of him. I don't, because I care for him. She spoke to him, getting a little nervous. I know who Naruto-kun really is and that he's not what's inside of him. And, well, I think you're more than what's locked inside of you too. Gaara's eyes widened for a moment as the girl said that. He couldn't remember the last time anyone said anything like that. What do you see when you look at me? Gaara asked her. She fidgeted a little. Well, I don't know you that well, but you seem very lonely. Gaara couldn't argue that point with her. For most of his life he thought of nothing but himself because he thought no one else would. But I think that if you show people who you are, who you really are, you'll get others to see it. Hinata told him honestly. Yeah man, Naruto grinned. It can take some time, but you can't give up. In fact, how about we stick with you and you can get to know my friends so they'll be your friends. Gaara really wasn't sure how to take something like this. No one had been this nice to him in such a long time that he had forgotten what it felt like to have others care about you. He had never had real friends before, so he was wondering what it was like to have friends. He let himself be led away by them as they started to introduce him to their friends. A little time later, Jiraiya looked around the place he had just gotten there after a very long talk with Tsunade. He had told her his plan and worked out the details with her. But first he had to look for a certain someone. He noticed Kakashi with the adults as he knew that he had to talk to him first. Jiraiya pulled Kakashi over inside of the home away from prying ears. This was something he had talked to Tsunade about what he had planned, but before they could go to Naruto first he had to talk to his father. Jiraiya motioned to a set of chairs in the living room as they sat down. So I take it what you have to say is important. Kakashi knew that pulling him away from everyone meant something was up, but the fact that they were sitting down told him this was major. Jiraiya could tell he knew something was up, but he had no idea what, so in respect he decided get to the point of the matter. Yes it is, he told him leaning back. As you know, Akatsuki has been a little more active of late. I hear they're looking for the hosts and they already know of 2 of them. They've made attempts at Naruto already, and the fact that they actually had the audacity to come into Konoha at least once tells me they don't fear any security. When they are ready they will come here again, and next time we might not be so lucky and Naruto won't be away at the time. You got off lucky. They don't normally leave survivors in their wake. They leave nothing but a bloody trail, usually as mercenaries or bounty hunters, but they do have a bigger plan. I just wish I knew what it was. So what's your plan? Kakashi asked him cautiously. Naruto needs to be ready for what's coming for him. You've done a hell of a job so far, but the problem is you can't protect him here. He told him plainly as he could see Kakashi about to react to that. The last time you faced them you nearly died and ended up in a coma. Next time you might not be so lucky. Kakashi didn't like where this was going. Even on a mission, if I hadn't been there, what would have happened when those 2 showed up? He asked Kakashi. Kakashi knew that in the best circumstances it would have ended with Kakashi ending up dead while he was fending him off, giving Naruto and anyone else time to get away. At least he hoped they would have enough time to get away. Kakashi was a practical man and knew logically that he couldn't protect them if faced with those kinds of odds on his own with no backup. Then there was the father side of him that wanted to protect his son no matter what. What do you propose? Kakashi asked him. I've thought about it, and the only thing I can come up with is to keep him on the move and have no one knows where. He needs to train as well in order to get stronger. Jiraiya knew this wasn't going to be easy. I was thinking of taking him with me. I always go around never staying anywhere, and I'm one of the few people that can stand up to them. Kakashi knew all that was true, but there was a part of him that made it hard to think about. How long? Jiraiya thought about it. A couple of years at least. Kakashi's eye widened as he looked at the man with shock. Why so long? Honestly, it would take that long at least to get the proper training in, and also we need the time to prepare. He isn't the only one that needs to be ready. I feel that a war is coming and we all need to be prepared. You have your students and yourself to get ready for what's to come, Kakashi. Kakashi thought about it, and on the surface it was all very logical, but 2 years was a long time. A long time he wouldn't be able to see his son again. He knew that one day Naruto would grow up and get a life of his own, but he always thought he would be there to see it. Missing 2 years of your child's life wasn't something you could just accept on a whim. But then there was the danger that was coming to Naruto and others like him. Kakashi stood up and went to the window and looked out there. There Naruto was with his friend laughing and enjoying himself. If he could, Kakashi would want to keep him here and train him personally. He might be able to do it, but then if they came for him, he wouldn't be able to protect him. Kakashi stared out through the window as he knew he was going to make a choice that would change his life. He had made this choice over 13 years ago when he took Naruto in. Now he had to let him go. All those years of him looking after Naruto came back to him, all the good times and all the bad times. All those memories, and he wouldn't give them up for anything. He sighed as he knew that as a father he needed to make sure that Naruto had a long life ahead of him. This was the hardest choice he had to make. We'll wait until the party is over and then we'll talk to him about it, Kakashi told Jiraiya as he watched his son taking it all in because this could be one of the last memories he would have of Naruto for a few years. The party had gone well for everyone but soon the Sand siblings had to leave as they had to get back to their own village and report on the mission. Naruto wanted to see him off at the front door as the three of them stood there. Hope you guys had a good time, Naruto asked them. It was fun, Gaara spoke up and his face had a softer expression on it than his normal one. It wasn't much of difference but if you looked closely enough you could see the small differences. Naruto grinned behind his mask, that's great. Then he noticed the sour look on Temari's face as he leaned over to Gaara. Hey, why's she so pissed? Kankuro heard it and decided to answer, she's just pissed she couldn't finish her last game. I would have won that time if you hadn't stopped me, Temari snapped at him. She had managed to get in a few wins but he still came out ahead. It wasn't losing that she minded too much, it was just losing to him. Then just when she was certain the last game she was going to win they had to leave. Although she hadn't liked it she knew that they did have to leave, although not before she told him they were going to finish what they started. Of course he had just sat there with that damn expression on his face calling her troublesome, which only made her more pissed. Then he had done something she hadn't expected, he had actually gotten a smile on his face as he told her that he would play her any time if she wanted. She was a bit surprised by it and didn't have any kind of retort back other than just that next time she would be ready for him. Still despite everything she had been enjoying herself, the boy was a lot smarter than he let on and through the games she had seen the kind of mind he had. It was just a shame he never applied himself more, he had a gift and she hated that he didn't seem to want to use it. Still it was nice to actually doing something with someone that wasn't intimidated about her father or little brother. For years she had learned that many gave her family a wide berth because of it. Well it was actually kind of fun, Kankuro smiled as he had gotten to know some of the Leaf Ninja. He had actually kind of hit it off with that Kiba guy, mainly that they were kind of similar personality. They had agreed to a spar next time they saw each other, something he found himself looking forward to. He used his puppets as his partners in battle but Kiba used his dog. So it would be interesting to see how things would turn out in a spar. Naruto was glad so far they had enjoyed themselves but he turned to Gaara. So you enjoyed yourself, Gaara? It was fun. Gaara had enjoyed his first party even though he might not show it. It had been the first time he had been with kids his own age. It had been kind of a rough start but with Naruto and Hinata helping he had slowly made progress with how to interact with people. All his life people had shunned him so actually being around others felt nice. Well come back any time, Naruto told them all. Gaara nodded his head, it was nice having a friend for the first time. Although he had to get back to his own village, this showed him that he had a lot of things he had to accomplish. He knew that he had done things in the past to make his village fear and even hate him. It was time to change that, he knew it wouldn't be easy but if he could turn things around it would be worth it. They said the goodbyes as Naruto waved them goodbye, after that everyone else started to file out. They all had their own things to do for the rest of the day as Naruto thanked them all for coming. He especially took time to spend with Hinata on her way out. So Hinata-chan, are you busy tomorrow? Naruto asked her. Hinata thought about it, I have some training in the morning and maybe a little more in the afternoon with my team. After that I should be free, why? Well I was wondering if you wouldn't mind if we spent the afternoon together. Hinata suddenly realized and she smiled feeling her cheeks warm a bit. It had been some time since they had spent time together given how busy the village was lately. Spending time with him at the party had been fun but it would be nice to be alone with him. I would like that, she told him. Great, Naruto grinned giving her a quick hug, I'll see you tomorrow then. She couldn't find her voice as she just nodded happily. Kakashi and Jiraiya stayed behind as they watched everyone leave. Kakashi had just seen Naruto and Hinata and he mentally sighed. If things went a certain way they might not be able to spend that time together, something he knew that Naruto was looking forward to. But he was entering an adult world and that meant hard choices sometimes. He remembered all those little things like how Naruto first learned to walk, his first words, his first day of school. It just seemed like yesterday that his son was asking for a story before bed, but here he was, and Kakashi might not see him for a long time. The next time he saw his son Naruto would be a young man. Kakashi felt a sense of loss at that. He never knew that he would think of those carefree days and wish for more time. There had been a lot of good times that he wouldn't mind revisiting or doing again. Well, everyone's gone, Jiraiya told him, pulling Kakashi out of his thoughts. Alright, Kakashi walked up to Naruto. Hey son, can you come with us? We have something to talk to you about. Sure thing, Dad. Naruto had no idea what was in store for him in that moment. It wasn't long until Naruto looked around the living room and already he could feel the tension. He could tell something was up as he saw the serious expressions on everyone. Naruto took a seat in one of the chairs as the two adults looked at him. Well kid, given what happened during that last mission, I've had a thought about your training, Jiraiya started off. Oh yeah. Naruto perked up a bit at the training part. He was always up for something. The older man nodded his head. Yes, but there is a catch. You see, I can't stay here to do the training. I've got to keep an eye on Akatsuki activities and also Orochimaru's. That requires me out in the field tracking down leads as well as getting reports from my informants and spies. So, we'll have to leave the village if I go with you. Naruto asked, thinking about where this was leading. That didn't seem so bad. After all, he had done missions away from the village before. He had learned the Rasengan in a month after all, so how much longer could that be? Cool. So how long are we going to be gone? Naruto asked, eager to get to training. Jiraiya shared a look with Kakashi as the older man sighed. Kid, this isn't some simple training. For what's to come, I need to help build you up physically and mentally. What's coming is a major storm, Naruto, and you have to be ready for it. This training will take at least a couple of years. Years. Naruto jumped out of his chair. This he didn't expect. He thought it might be a few months, but years. Why the hell will it take so long? Because there is a lot that I want to do, Jiraiya told him, rubbing his face. Maybe he was getting too old for students. After all, every single student he had ended up dead, so a small part of him was afraid that if continued on this path he might live to see yet another student die young. But there was something about the boy, there was just this spark in him that he had seen in the boy's father. It gave an old man like him hope that maybe the boy was the one he had been looking for. It was a long shot, but the boy had a lot of potential, rough potential at that, and he wasn't as sharp as either his biological or adopted father. But he made up for it in guts and tenacity, two things Jiraiya could respect. Look kid, while we're training we're going to go around all this world. There is a lot you can learn in other countries, and I think I know of a few people that can help smooth out some of your rough edges better than anyone else can. He had already a mental list of a few people. One in particular might just push both Naruto physically but also the boy's patience. There's also another added bonus. While we're out we'll be moving all the time, so if Akatsuki is looking for you, it will be harder to pin you down. Plus with me there they might think twice about going after you. Well, why not just stay in the village then? Naruto asked. I already said I can't stay here as I got work out there to do, plus you forgot that they already got in once, he told the boy. Although I know that they are working on ways to prevent that, Itachi knows this place inside and out. After all, Orochimaru got out of this village and keeps getting agents inside as well. There's no guarantee that Itachi, who is one of the strongest ninjas this village had but also was in Anbu, he might know of secret ways in and out that no one else knows. He knew that Itachi might not know of anything like that, but he also wouldn't put it past the man. He had walked right into the village after all without sounding a single alarm. A man like that, if he wanted to get somewhere, he would find a way in. Naruto crossed his arms. He did remember that after all his father had been put into the hospital. He was just trying to figure out a way that didn't require him to stay away for years. Do I really have to do this? Naruto asked them both. You're not being forced into anything, Kakashi told him honestly. He's just offering you an option. If you don't want to go, you don't have to. Naruto was glad that he had a choice in this, so I don't have to go if I don't want to. Then I can just stay here and train with my dad. That's true, Jiraiya told him. And you can learn a lot from Kakashi here. He's done a great job so far with you. Although you have to remember you can't train for all those years, you'll have missions and he still has to look after your teammates as well. In fact, isn't that Sakura girl getting training from Tsunade at the moment? Naruto paused. That was true, and Sakura was learning a lot. If he stayed he would get stronger, but if he trained under Jiraiya then he might get stronger faster. He had learned how to summon and the Rasengan under him, and that was just with 2 months of training with the old pervert. Can I think about this? Naruto asked. Jiraiya started to say something but Kakashi jumped in. Go ahead, this is a big step and you should really think about it. Thanks Dad, Naruto told him with a long face as he left the room. He ended up leaving the house as he felt that he needed a walk to think about things. Jiraiya turned to Kakashi. You know this might be helpful to him, right? He's my son and he's old enough to make up his mind. Kakashi told him, leaning back in his chair. He's going to be an adult soon, so he should learn to make adult choices. As his father'll support whatever he chooses. Jiraiya ran his hands through his hair. He couldn't help but think this would be much easier if Naruto had no family at the moment. Then he chided himself for that thought. Naruto had grown into a fine kid because of the parenting he had. The old man sighed. Well, either way he had to make the offer for the kid. He really didn't have any time he could spare, as Akatsuki really was starting to worry him recently. They knew virtually nothing about this group or the members. Going into a battle without any kind of proper intelligence was a sure way to get people killed. He had seen that firsthand too many times in the last war to see it repeated with this generation. There was an ill wind blowing and Jiraiya didn't like what he thought that would bring. The last thing he wanted was to live to see yet another war or whatever it was that Akatsuki was going to bring. Throw in Orochimaru and hell, it just seemed like bad times were coming. Well, I better go get things ready. Let me know what the kid's choice is. He pushed himself up, ready to get back to his room and pack up. He had to leave soon at any rate. He just wondered if it would be with company or not. As Jiraiya left the Hitaki home he looked around. He did love this village with all his heart. Looking up at the monuments of the faces of the previous Hokages, he saw the familiar faces of his teacher and his greatest student. It wouldn't be long until Tsunade got her face up there as well. Maybe by the time he got back it would be there. Although he loved this village, he had to leave because he loved it. There were many that wanted to see it harm, and it was his job to find out about it. What had happened with the sand and sound was proof of that. Orochimaru was still out there planning all kinds of things against the village. Plus he had no family to go home to, no real home here either. He moved around a lot, that keeping a home was kind of pointless for him. He usually just crashed at a hotel or at someone's house. He could have settled down and made a family of his own, but the only problem was that there had been only one woman for him, the woman in fact. But she had found someone else, and although he had been happy his heart broke. Then when he died he tried to comfort her, but he had closed herself off from the world. So he tried to go about his life, with his work, with his writing. He trained Minato to help fill the voice in himself, and it had worked for the longest time. The boy had been the closest thing to family he had ever had, then even that was taken. One horrible night and everything changed, and Jiraiya felt alone again in the world, and he also felt the hope in him die as well, the hope that he would one day see the peace in this world that he longed to see. Then out of some quirk of fate here he was with yet another possible student, and the hope that had long since died finally seemed to blossom again. Naruto would be his last student, of that he knew with a certainty. There was a lot of potential in the boy and he hoped that things worked out. He really did. A grin grew on his face. Maybe before he left he would see Tsunade one more time. After all, it would be a long time before he got to see her, plus she looked so damn good when she got pissed. He chuckled to himself as he went in the way of her office. While Jiraiya left to see Tsunade, Naruto was currently sitting by one of the rivers that ran through the village, looking out at the flowing water but still lost in thought. He had a lot on his mind, given what Jiraiya and his dad told him. He walked down the small slope and sat down by the river. He crossed his legs as he slumped over. He picked up one of the small rocks and tried to skip the stone, but he only skipped once before sinking. Naruto frowned as he tried again with the same effect. On his 5th try he managed to get 3 skips. He stopped getting bored of the distraction. He had a major choice to make, and honestly he wasn't sure what to choose. Yeah, he could learn a lot from Jiraiya, but it was 2 years away from home. Away from everyone that mattered, his friends, his dad, and also Hinata. Yeah, there were good points, but there were also points against it. There was no guarantee after all he could be stronger going with Jiraiya, although given who the man was and he had trained the 4th Hokage, Naruto's biological father, there was evidence that Jiraiya could train him well in those years. Naruto had spent his time just mentally going in circles and it seemed like he wasn't sure which way to go. He tried making a mental list but he kept adding to each side that they were both even. Then he tried thinking what might be for the best but then he kept second guessing those points because he wasn't sure if those points would work out in the future. This sucks. Naruto nearly pulled his hair out of his head as he fell onto his back glaring at the blue sky. Stupid Akatsuki, why the hell did they have to show up? Things were going fine before those jerks came into my life. The big problem was that no one knew why they did the things they did or why they were looking for people with the tailed beasts inside of them. Although he doubted that it was for anything good, but the only two members he knew about were really strong, like insanely strong, and he knew at the moment, he didn't stand a chance. Staring up at the clear blue sky and white clouds rolled by, he sighed just watching them go. He just laid there looking up for several minutes before frowning. Why the hell is Shikamaru always wanting to do this? This is just really boring, Naruto said to himself. He really didn't get the lazy genius sometimes. Naruto, what are you doing? Naruto looked up the hill seeing Sakura and Sasuke looking down at him, both looking at him wondering what in the world he was doing. Oh hey guys, he sighed sitting up. Are you okay? Sakura asked him. She and Sasuke had been just walking around talking. What surprised her was that it had been Sasuke to ask her. Something she was delighted about but tried not to show too much enthusiasm. Still, it had been fun as they talked about small things as he actually started to open up a little to her. But then they had come across Naruto and the last time they had seen him he had been looking really upbeat. Now he was the complete opposite. Naruto let out a long sigh. Something came up. Sakura and Sasuke shared a look before both walked down the small hill and sat down next to him. So what is it? Sasuke asked first as all three stared out over the river. So Naruto filled them all in, telling them what Jiraiya offered and what it would mean. They already had an idea of what Akatsuki was like given they had only seen two of their members. So they had no idea what else they had in store for them in the future. Naruto told them what he had been thinking about since he didn't like leaving his home for all this time, but on the other hand he most likely would need this. There was a long silence until Sasuke of all people broke it. You should do it. What? Both Sakura and Naruto spoke up at once, surprised. The choice is pretty clear to me, he told them, picking up a small rock and skipping it several times over the water. This sounds like something you'll need, and it's not every day that one of the Sannin says that they want to train you. In fact, you two are lucky. Sakura blushed a bit out of embarrassment as she had started training under Tsunade lately and the woman was the toughest teacher she ever had. The thing was, she couldn't deny that learning under Tsunade was a huge opportunity. Yeah, the only other one kind of wants to destroy all of Konoha and wants your body, Naruto spoke up. Sasuke winced at that. Do you have to put it that way? It sounds just so wrong out of your mouth. Sorry, Naruto muttered, scratching the back of his head. The words just kind of flew out of his mouth and he knew it sounded wrong as soon as he had spoken them. He felt a bit better just talking with his friends about all of this, like the weight was slowly being lifted off his shoulders. Anyways, Sasuke was going back to his point. Kakashi can teach me a lot with the Sharingan and I can train with him. I can't get training to help out with my eyes with anyone else, plus with all the different techniques he's gathered I can learn a lot of those from copying him as well. I'm also still thinking of new ways to use jutsu in surprising ways. His fight with Itachi showed him that he might not be able to take his brother head on. His brother liked to use genjutsu and come at you from the side of behind, so Sasuke knew he had to learn to be more surprising, to come at him in ways that even his brother wouldn't expect. That's true, plus I'll be working with Tsunade, so you need to get stronger too or else you'll be left in the dust pretty soon. Sakura smirked at him, knowing how competitive Naruto could be. What? Like hell I'll be left in the dust? He proclaimed, although he hadn't been even certain he wanted to do this kind of training. Now it seemed that his mind was slowly being made up to actually take the opportunity. Yeah, it would royally suck not seeing everyone for all this time, but they were making some decent points. Both of them could learn a lot in the coming years, and if he trained under Jiraiya there might be some things he could learn there that he couldn't learn anywhere else. Good, because we'll all be here when you get back, Sakura told him with a soft smile on her face. If you really are going to do this, we'll be waiting for you to come home. So you better also get back stronger, Sasuke told him, crossing his arms. Because I'll want a sparring match with you when you get back, and you better not disappoint me. He hoped that Naruto did get stronger. Since the days at the academy he had been the only one to push him. Their rivalry helped Sasuke to push himself further and faster, and in a way he held a respect for Naruto. Not that he would ever admit to something like that out loud. Naruto could get a major ego at times, and Sasuke felt it was his job to put as many holes in that as possible. "Oh, don't worry, I'll kick your ass when I get back," Naruto grinned at him. It looked to him that he had finally made his mind up. "So you are going then?" Sakura pretty much knew it by now, but still a part of her was sad that she wouldn't see her friend for a long time. Naruto got a bit more of a serious expression on his face. "Yeah, but first I'm going to have talk to someone." He got up and started walking. This next part was going to be hard. It wasn't all that long ago that he just got back from a mission, and here he was getting ready to leave again, and this time for a long time. He just hoped she took it well. This was going to be a long 2 years. They both watched him leave as they had a pretty good idea who he was going to talk to. The two were left looking over the river as both of them were quiet for a long moment. "I'm going to miss him," Sakura said quietly. "The village is going to be a bit duller without him around." "Yeah," Sasuke nodded as they just silently sat there together. Although they had a feeling that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance that he should take advantage of, but for the moment they just sat silently together watching the water go by. Hyuga compound. Hinata was in her room feeding her pet rabbit. She giggled at how cute he looked when he ate the small carrot she had placed in the cage. She door was opened as the rabbit was actually slightly trained and well behaved for the most part. He did explore a bit, but so far she had taken care of her pet well enough that her father hadn't complained about how she was taking care of it. Plus it was a major help that Hanabi helped out when Hinata had to leave the village. Not that her little sister had to be asked. The younger girl adored the cute bunny. As she was on her floor watching her pet eat its lunch, she suddenly heard a tapping at her window. She looked to her left and was surprised to see Naruto there. He waved to her after he saw her looking, motioning to open the window. She got up and went to her window and opened it as he quickly made his way into her room. Naruto-kun. She wasn't sure why he was here already. They had already seen each other not that long ago. Not that she cared, after all, any time she got to see him was good to her. "Hey, I hope you don't mind me coming in like this, but I really wanted to talk to you in private first." Naruto had spent enough time in this place to know a lot of the ins and outs. So when he wanted some time along with Hinata, it was a bit easy for him to figure out a way around the usual guards. Plus they had seen him enough times to know he was a welcomed guest of the Hyuga for years. So most people didn't question seeing him around. They might give him a curious glance, but they would go right back to what they were normally doing. Something Naruto counted on. The only tricky part was getting past the guards without having an escort. But at the moment he really needed to talk to her, and he got the feeling although she would be understanding, she most likely wouldn't like it. Most likely she wouldn't even voice her displeasure given that Hinata hated conflict. One of the things about her that he liked, she had this heart that was too kind some days. He was worried that the life of a ninja might one day taint that almost purity one day, but many people looked at her and saw someone weak. He looked at her and saw someone with a strong heart instead. It took a lot more strength to keep that kindness than give up on it. Looking at her, he wanted to memorize everything about her because pretty soon it would be one of the last times he would ever see her. Naruto walked over to her bed and sat down. "Hinata-chan, you might want to sit down. I got some news today and well, it will change things." Now Hinata was worried as she sat down next to him. She listened as he explained everything. She knew about the fox inside of him and that there was this group Akatsuki after him and others like him. He had told her about encountering them on the last mission, and she had been so relieved that he and the others made it back fine. Then he got to the offer Jiraiya had given him, and at first she had been happy for him, ecstatic really, but then he got to the downside of the offer. 2 years. 2 years she wouldn't be able to see him, to talk to him, to hear his voice, or have him in her life in any way for that long a time. She felt like her heart had just dropped to her stomach, like the floor had been pulled out from under her. She just kept thinking that she wouldn't see him for such a long time. She had known Naruto since childhood. He had been her first friend and more so. She remembered all the good times they had, even the bad ones, like how he had been there on the night her mother had died as she had cried herself in his arms. She had gone at the most a month without seeing him during the Chunin exams training time. She had missed him a lot in that shorter time, but for her to go 2 years was nearly unthinkable. She knew that he came to this decision since he had come here and he explained his reasons. They were good reasons, but that didn't stop the pain she was feeling. He wasn't gone yet and already she felt like she missed him. She just sat there listening to him, more to just his voice than what he was saying at the moment, because she knew that soon she wouldn't hear that voice for a long time. Hinata-chan. Naruto was starting to get worried by her silence, then she suddenly leaned against him. Please, she whispered. Huh. Naruto blinked in confusion. Just hold me, she told him, because she didn't want to show how close she was to crying. She had to be strong for him, but she still felt the need to feel him holding her. She felt his arm wrap around her shoulder as she felt him wrap around her as best he could. She felt the stings in her eyes, but she didn't want to cry. She didn't want one of their last memories together in all this time to be of her crying. She just wanted to remember every inch of this moment, to burn it into her memory, because it would be all she had for the longest time. I'll be back. I know, she said softly. I'll always be thinking of you. I know, I will be too. The two just sat there. It was a crappy outcome of the choice he had, but Naruto felt he needed this and there was no way in hell it was going to take it any longer than it had to. He wanted to come back home and to everyone he cared about and to see her again. The two just sat there in silence, wanting to just freeze this moment to last forever. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.